Here we have effort versus result, our third and final law. Effort versus result is a simple concept, yet the most powerful, or should I say practical, out of the three. I use it daily. The law of supply and demand, I guess, is more theory, and cause and effect is very useful once we're in a position for targets, or of course if the effect is not in line with the cause, our E's per cup, which is similar to effort versus result. The amount of effort, which is the force or volume, should be in sync with the result, price action. The two have a symbiotic relationship. A large volume is effort should produce a large spread, which is the result. They work together in harmony. Like bag holding, for example, which we covered earlier today, is a good example of effort versus result. Say this is support. Oh well, we can use this example here. This is support. This is all the price action and volume. We have a very narrow bar here and this would be the volume. This is an anomaly. Why? Well, because we have an extremely narrow bar with extremely high volume. Therefore, the volume force and the price action in terms of price movement is out of sync. It's not in harmony. The volume price relationship has been violated and our ears must perk up. Our spider sense tingles, especially if we're at a structural location like here at support. We have a up bar like this with volume like this, and then we have a narrow spread and we have volume like this. So half the spread, half the volume, everything's in sync. Okay, and if we push up like this with this volume, again we'd say the spread volume relationship is intact. Yet if we drive up like this and we have this low volume, then okay, something is clearly not right. Are sellers withdrawing from the market? Is there no selling friction? We need to analyze all the information to the left of the chart, because this we'd put a question mark. What does this low volume with this widespread mean? It is out of sync. It's out of harmony. We also have many examples with shortening of the thrust, which we've seen today. Think about it. We have a bar like this, then we have a bar like this. And we might have volume here and higher volume where we round over. This would be effort versus result. Why? Because we have double the volume, yet the spread has halved. So we're increasing the effort, yet the result has not been rewarded. Our ears perk up. What does this mean? Well, the only thing that can stop this spread being wider or being longer is selling. That can only be selling, because we've made this much distance on this volume. If we're in a good bullish market and we have nearly double the volume, the spread should be like this, with the spread like this. So the fact that we print a narrow spread with higher volume, we are out of sync. The symbiotic relationship, our ears must perk up. Something is off. Okay, and that is how we use effort versus result. I just need to make this point clear before we move on. This is shortening of the thrust in terms of price movement, but effort versus result in terms of volume. Okay, it's a very important concept to understand. See, this is still shortening of the thrust where we run out of juice. But here we have high volume with a narrow spread, which means selling has occurred in this bar. has to have occurred. Whereas here, with this low volume you push up, this is a lack of demand. So by analysing this one bar of volume to the previous bar, we get two different reads. One is of selling and one is a lack of buying, which are both negative. Again, they has to be used contextually, of where we are structurally and what's happened to the left, but in a nutshell, this is what it means. Because the second bar has higher volume and a narrower spread, we can deter that selling is present. And this leads to how we use effort versus result. We must use this law by using comparative and relative analysis. So we will compare the spread and volume to local bars, which means bars that are very close to each other. We will examine the bar volume relationship to look for anomalies. Okay? And relative means we would look at the same bars in nature, which can be 30, 40, 50 bars back. Say, for example, we spring 3 times at the support, so they're the same in nature. We will compare the spread and the volume to see how the force of demand has either changed or there is an anomaly. And that is how we use effort versus result. Don't worry, there's a lot of theory here, but we have examples that we'll go through to hopefully solidify or cement this concept. But it's very important. So just to recap, we compare locally with the spread and volume, which means bars that are close to each other. Okay, say the last 10 or so. And we look for an anomaly. We look for effort versus result. Or 2, we can look at the same bars that are similar in nature. For example, we're at support here, so we're looking at springs. If we have a down bar and a down bar and a spring, we spring here, we're looking at springs at support. We wouldn't compare the volume and spreads to the down bars because they're not the same. We're looking for the same bar. The spring, think of it as like the spring family. So whatever bar you're comparing it to, it has to be the same in nature. Like here, we can compare this bar here to this bar here. Why? Well, because we're at resistance and they're both similar spreads, and we can see that they close off the lows. They're very similar, and we'd look at the volume to see if there's any aberrations, any anomalies, by using the volume and the spread, the effort versus result. To wrap this up, we are looking for the spread volume relationship to be out of sync. And when this occurs, our ears must perk up and we must analyze very carefully each bar thereafter to establish what the anomaly meant, if anything. Occasionally, well, as previously said, when we get a huge spread and a little narrow bar at support, which is bag holding, we know that to be strength. Okay, but not every single effort versus result bar will give us a trade opportunity, but we can obtain very critical data that will help us to determine the strength or the imbalance between the forces of demand and supply. And that is the key. So effort versus result is a tool that we can use to help decrypt the forces of demand and supply. Who's in control? Good.